What happens after you send a debt collector a debt validation request? So they've contacted you about a debt. You said, please stop all collection efforts until you validate the debt. What happens after that? So there's really two things that can happen after you send that request. The first is going to be good for you. That is, the debt collector never responds to you, never sends you the validation. That probably means they don't have the information necessary to prove that you owe the debt. And if they don't produce that information to you, they can't move forward with any other collection efforts. And if they do try and move forward with any collection efforts, there's potentially a Fair Debt Collection Practices Act violation there, and you now have the right to sue them for each of those violations, and you can win $1,000 for each of those violations. So this is good news. If they just never respond, good, you don't have to pay the debt because they can't prove that you owe it, and you can just move on. Of course, there may be credit implications there. We're not talking about that today, but we're just talking about as far as, do you have to pay the debt? So that's the first way that they can respond. The second way that a debt collector can respond to a debt validation request is to actually provide the proof that you owe the debt. This is, for a junk debt buyer, typically going to be the original contract or agreement that shows that you owe the debt to the original creditor. But then it's also going to be a document showing that the junk debt buyer or the debt collector purchased the debt from your original creditor. So if it's like a doctor's bill, it's going to be your original agreement with the doctor to pay, and then it's going to be an agreement between the doctor's office and the debt collector showing that the debt collector has purchased the debt. So what happens if you get that debt validation? Well, now you've got to weigh your options. Do you have the proof to disprove what they've given you? If you do, then maybe you want to fight it, wait for them to file a lawsuit and fight them in court. Of course, if you win, you're not going to owe anything. But what you may also want to do is weigh, do I need to pay this? Do I need to negotiate? If there's a possibility of you losing in court, you're going to owe more in most cases than the original debt. So let's just, for ease of math, we'll say it's a $500 debt. If you go to court and lose, you're gonna owe the $500 plus the filing fee of couple hundred dollars, plus the attorney fees of the debt collector, plus interest. So that $500 debt is gonna turn into $1,000, $1,500. So you need to be thinking, if you think you can win the case, great, take it on. If you think, I could lose and I could end up owing a lot more than the $500, does it make sense to pay the $500 now? Of course, you don't necessarily have to pay the $500. What you should be doing in that case is contacting the debt collector and trying to negotiate a settlement. It may be, well, I'll pay you $500, but I gotta pay it $100 over 5 months. Or I will, how about you take $400? And really, the sky's the limit as to what you can do as far as reaching an agreement, as long as both parties agree to it. The last tip that I'll give you is, if you do decide to negotiate in that way, what you need to do is memorialize that agreement in a settlement agreement. Too many times I have seen a debt collector and somebody else come to an agreement on what's going to be paid, and then the debt collector tries to change the agreement or put into writing, send an email that says like, hey, this confirms our agreement that you owe $400 when the agreement was for $350. So make sure that if you do decide to go the route of settling a debt, that you memorialize that in writing, signed by both you and the debt collector. If they go back on their agreement, then you go into court and you show your proof that there was an agreement that was reached, or that you don't owe the debt. So hopefully this tip was helpful to you. For more, you can check out debtbrief.com or check out some of our other videos here.